Germantown Central School District Board of Education to order. Please note the meeting will be recorded. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I need a motion to approve amendments to the recording of the meeting, financial BCF and financial 3D. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? So carried. All right, we are starting what?
Up top.
Yeah, the presentation.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you saw it.
All right. We are starting with a presentation from Mrs. Hilton on the Positivity Project. Very excited to hear about this.
Let me unmute her.
Okay, can everyone hear me? Are you guys able to hear me?
She can unmute herself, can't she?
Stacy,
I
can you unmute
did.
yourself?
Can you guys hear me now?
No.
No.
Can you guys hear me now?
She's
What about
on
now?
your volume up on your computer? Because she's not muted right now.
How's that?
There we go.
All right, keep.
Hey, stop playing over there.
All right, how's that?
That works.
Okay, sorry, it kept switching back and forth. My internet is not fantastic at home. So thanks everyone for joining for this presentation. I wanted to let everyone know what we've been doing in the district this year with the Positivity Project. So this is our plan for 2021, and I'm going to talk a little bit about going forward. Next slide, please. So the big question is why positivity? Obviously, it's a positive thing, but the reason that we came up with this was out of the building resilience team. So in our work to become a trauma-informed district, we formed a team called the Building Resilience Team. The members include Jamie Dodonna, the high school principal, Renee Greskow, the social worker, myself, high school English teacher, administrative intern, Devin Jakowski, the high school guidance counselor, Bev Marr, the elementary principal, Shannon Miller, our school psychologist, and Karen Chassler, our K-8 school counselor. To guide this work, we used these main principles that the process we're going to do must be designed and guided by the faculty and staff. So it can't be a top-down, it needs to be a team effort. The process is going to be long and it will evolve over time. So we're looking at a working document and a working plan that we continually evaluate and update. There's no magic bullet or program when we're looking at becoming a trauma-informed school, even though we did have a lot of templates to look at and a lot of research specifically out of the state of Massachusetts. We're going to have the goal of approaching all students and adults from a trauma-sensitive perspective. So understanding that everyone we meet, everyone we interact with might be coming from a place of having experienced trauma. Communication between all participants is essential, and that means not just the participants in the meeting or in the team, but also the participants in the community and the district as a whole. And the process needs to always be transparent. And then the last one, relationships are essential in building resilience, and not just child to child, but also adult to child and adult to adult. So in 2019, our team surveyed the faculty and staff utilizing surveys that were developed by NICED, Panorama, and Massachusetts, which is really the leader in building trauma-informed schools. These responses showed specific areas of concern that the staff felt like they needed more training and more sharing of resources Specifically, they wanted a toolkit for educators to support the building of resilience in our youth and how to learn how to approach our students with a trauma-informed perspective. And ultimately, we wanted to make sure that we were creating a safe and trusting school experience for students and adults. The Positivity Project meets our need for resources, a safe and trusting school experience, and it works to build positive relationships. So ultimately, we thought that this was the best fit for our current goal. All right, so we have a quick video here. Oh, good, it works on here.
We equip K-12 educators with the resources, training, strategy, and support to teach positive psychology's 24 character strengths and the other people matter mindset.
It's so easy to teach the traits and the ready-made PowerPoints and lessons that are updated. One of the things that is great about P2 is that we have a calendar, and it's great that the calendar is set for us, and it's the same across the country.
Everything is there, everything is laid out. So a teacher literally can walk in, click on my hot link, and deliver Positivity Project instruction and engage students with very little time at all.
Partner schools have staff-wide access to 32 weeks of grade-level differentiated slide presentations for daily 15-minute lessons, plus over 30 project-based learning slide presentations.
Hi, my name is Mike Irwin, the president and co-founder of the Positivity Project, and I'm so excited to be spending some time with you today to help facilitate this professional development, to help you gain a deeper...
Our P2 initial implementation training video provides your staff with an understanding of why the Positivity Project exists and what implementation looks like in a variety of schools. Through a simple staff-wide professional development at the start of the year, building leaders can ensure all staff members have the knowledge and confidence necessary to teach the 24 character strengths.
I think the great thing about the Positivity Project is it's about the other people matter mindset. It's about teaching the character and vocabulary. And most importantly, it's about making it work for your culture and your students.
Our implementation strategy playbooks will help your school develop a plan to consistently teach character and relationships. These playbooks are differentiated for elementary, middle, and high schools. Plus, we provide support for all your implementation questions and needs. The premise is simple, but the results are profound. Become a partner school today and make a lasting positive impact on your students' lives.
All right, so in our first phase, which is our implementation phase, we had all of our faculty and staff take the VIA character strength survey. I did put a link in there in the PowerPoint if anybody wanted to be able to take a further look at that. We trained all the faculty to utilize the Positivity Project resources. And to that point, we've continued to provide support for them if they need it as they're moving through this. We've established signage in all of the buildings. There was a handout that I believe all the board members should have received. Pages 2 and 3 have some pictures of the signage that we've created. And we've created a bulletin board team to design and maintain the bulletin boards throughout the building. So phase 2, rolling out the program district-wide, which I would say that we are 85% at that point. We really want to have all of our district employees involved in this. At this point, because of our current, pandemic situation, we've sort of focused on making sure the faculty has the support that they need, and then they'll be able to help further with TAs and GAs and the rest of our staff. We've supported the staff in utilizing the resources. Bevmar has started morning announcements in the elementary, so she makes videos and sends those out. We also have nomination forms in the elementary where the younger students can nominate a person who they feel is exemplifying the specific character strength of that week. And then that person receives recognition. There's a big board in the elementary, they get their name on it, and sort of a, positive reminder that they're doing really good things. So next steps, and we've started doing this, the calendar is basically set on the website, but that's going to be modified for our district to make sure that it follows with our district calendar for the 21-22 school year. At the close of this year, end of May, beginning of June, we're going to survey staff on their needs going forward and hear about their feedback from this year, since they've had basically since January to start implementing this. Planning our training for all staff for the fall of 2021 so that every employee has the full training for this. And Jamie, Donna, and I have already written our grant for continued funding. And I know Bev was working on another grant to continue funding moving forward. So great, thank you so much. Before I turn this back over to Tammy, does anybody have any questions, or is there anything that I can elaborate on?
Stacy, I just have one quick question. So this is something that you will implement pre-K through 12?
Yep, so currently all of the faculty in the building is utilizing this pre-K to 12 right now. Ideally, every single person in the district who works in the district will have the training though, so that we can have the continuity of language and the continuity of support regardless of who's with the students. When we started this in the fall, it was very overwhelming because of all of the other issues that we were facing, and we decided that it was better to just focus this in. So we originally started with a pilot team in the high school, sort of troubleshooting any issues that we might have. And then we were able to do full staff training through the end of November, beginning of December, with an official rollout date of January of 2021. So we decided to sort of slow things down and make sure that our faculty had everything that they needed for our current struggles and challenges, and that implementing something new was going to be something that we were able to support completely.
And the kids seem to be drawn to it. They accept it.
They absolutely love it. I will say, I just spoke to Mary Mitchell yesterday. She came to tell me that she's been working on, she was working on the other people matter mindset and letting her kids understand how their words and actions affect others. And she played a song for them and then had them say, can you go home every day and say in the mirror, I was the best person I could be today. I was positive to my friends. I did the best that I could do. And she said she didn't expect it, but they've been coming back and reporting back to her and letting her know how that's been going. In my own class, we were just working on self-reliance, I believe the trait was. Sorry, it's been a busy day. We were working on self-reliance, and we talked about creating SMART goals, and we spent some time working. Everybody in the class developed a goal that they wanted to work on, and then we worked through that process. So overall, I think it's been really positive, not to overuse that word. The elementary, obviously things like recognition, having their name on the wall is working really well for them, but I haven't heard anything negative about this, especially with the strength survey that ties in. Each of our students has taken that as well. And when you take that, it's this short little survey, it takes about 10 minutes, and then it tells you what your top trait is. And it's one of the things that we've been using to help build relationships with students. So it's really interesting. At the beginning of this year, I didn't know a lot of my kids. A lot of them were remote. Some of them I'd never even really seen before. And being able to say, oh, your top trait is integrity. That's my top trait too. Or, oh, your top trait is humor. What do you think about that? So it's been really good. And I have had nothing but positive feedback from the faculty and the kids. Obviously there's been minor little hiccups in terms of utilizing the technology and just sort of learning our way around that. But overall, we've made sure that we have enough support for everyone going forward.
My kids love it.
Heather said
Absolutely love it.
Great, thank you. Did anybody have any other questions for me or anything else I could speak about?
I have one question for you. You talked about writing grants for funding. What's the cost of it?
Yes. So Off the top of my head, I'm gonna say it's just under $2,000 per year to have access to all of the resources. In the first year, we had a grant from Stewart's and the PTSA covered the remainder, which I believe Stewart's paid, a little over 1,000, and then PTSA paid whatever the rest was. I have an invoice, but I'm gonna say it's right between 1,800 and 2,000. So I know that Bev wrote another grant to Stewart's to repeat that funding. PTSA obviously has not had a chance for the same fundraising that they normally would have done this year. We really didn't want to hit them with another request. So Jamie and I wrote a grant for GSEF, and depending on how that goes, we'll continue to explore other grant opportunities.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else? All right, thank you, Stacy. That was very good. I'm glad I got to hear about it.
Great. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. All right. I need a motion to approve consent agenda items as listed. So, all right, Teresa,
I'll second.
and Annie. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So carried. Done. Yeah. Let's see where I was here. All right, personnel action item, accept letter of resignation from Deborah Moses, keyboard specialist, effective April 16th, 2021. Motion.
Second.
Heather, then Les, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So carried. And accept maternity leave of absent extension letter from Jennifer Tanner, commencing on June 25th, 2021, and ending on January 3rd, 2022. Any motion? Want to fight over the first and second? Take it out in the middle? Okay. Okay. Oh, however you want to write that down, let's fine. All right, any discussion?
Like a ping pong.
I know. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So carried. All right, financial action item. Presentation and adoption of the 2021-2022 finalized educational plan and budget. We'll do the presentation first before we adopt.
That'd be good, right?
Yeah, we're gonna do the presentation first before we make the resolution to adopt.
All right, everybody sees it on their screen, correct? All right, I'm going to ask Steve Golas to be part of this presentation since he's been innovative in helping us get this to this process. So here's our calendar. We're at the April 21st meeting where we will present the property tax report and a finalized proposed budget. And then we will then, once we have it adopted, we'll get the tax report card to the state and submit it to SED. Our budget hearing is set for May 5th, and we are preparing all of our legal notices by mail to be going out after that point, so that everything's getting together. Steve, I want you to talk about the tax levy calculation if you could, because I think that this is very important to share, especially the tax base growth factor.
Yes, one of the things that we want to know, that you will see from the last time, there is a change in the tax levy. It's now 1.46%, so you're seeing something a bit different. There had been something presented to you in March before I came. And what I did is, as we went through the second process, I did see one major mistake in it and made a quick change before we had our last meeting on a draft budget. But now I went through, looked at everything again, and we now have a 1.46% increase in the tax levy. The reason, what it basically comes down to is you're looking at, if you look on this page, you see at the top, what was your prior year tax levy? And then what they do is they apply a growth factor. The growth factor is the actual growth in construction, real property within the district from year to year. That's something we're provided for by the Office of Real Property Services State Tax Department. And then what happens, they ask you then, you get that inflation factor, then you come up with a new base number. That you have to do is take out what were your prior exemptions, and they were mainly capital expenses, net of state aid. And if what you used last year when you came up with your tax levy limit calculation and your tax cap, if there's a significant difference between what you projected and the reality, they say if it's material, you should recalculate and do a new number when you go forward into the next school year. The difference was enough that I did a new number. And the main reason, the amount of what we can, basically what we have to, the exemption that we have to take out, it changed some because the exemption actually, the exemption changed because we got more state aid. What it is, our capital expenses, we've had a lot of flux with the building project, and there have been numerous projections on the aid we're going to get. So this was a new aid. So basically it was a recalculation. You take out last year's capital exemptions, you come up with a new base number, and then you apply what is, they consider the CPI, related to the CPI. And for districts on a July, governments on a July 1 to June 30th, it's 1.0123% was your inflation factor. And you get another base number, $9.237 million. And then we get to calculate an exemption, capital exemption for the upcoming school year. So again, I looked at that. What we have in here is a projected amount of what the debt service will be on the capital construction project, $100,000 every year capital outlay exception project that we do. And in there is also something in terms of rent and capital aid and the offsetting aid from BOCES. So we have an adjusted number, which is the exemptions for the coming year that we get to add back to the levy. Their capital expenses less aid is $555,000, gets us to a tax levy of $9,792,874, 1.46% increase. You had a much larger number last year. It's mainly because you had a bigger capital exclusion because the capital expenses at that point were offset by less aid. This is that building aid kicking in. We got early aid start on the project. Unfortunately, getting aid, it hurts us on the tax levy side and how much we get as a capital exclusion that we can tax for, if that makes sense. So that kind of is where we are. So it's an adjusted, updated tax levy number. So I think that one's pretty solid. The other reason I did a recalculation of the prior, I didn't want anybody to look at it, question it, come back and say, oh, Germantown, you should have done that. And now you actually tax too much and now you've got to take it off a future tax levy increase. So trying to avoid those kind of things happening. So any questions on the tax levy and tax cap? I know it's very arcane, but it's a lot of. But bottom line, the more capital expenses we have, and the more they're offset by aid, it actually hurts us because we can't add back as much for capital expenses. Because you're saying, well, it's a net, you're getting it after what you get to add back in the levy after the aid you get. Okay. Next one, we're looking at the state aid. And we had to adjust, we did some adjustments on the state aid for some very good reasons. We did get $118,000 in change in additional foundation aid. Is a good thing, but basically, as I look into this more closely, Germantown is considered a relatively well-off school district in terms of your property wealth. And so we're kind of like something on an aid due minimum. We get very close to a minimal increase in foundation aid. And as I look at all the background data, if they were going to let the formula run in its pure fashion, and over the years, as foundation aid has been here since 2007-8, moving forward to the present day, most years that there haven't been cuts, they've always given every school district some amount of increase so that nobody doesn't get something on basic operating aid foundation. So if we had not gotten those increases that went to everybody, right now the formula would give us less foundation aid than we're actually receiving today. So what it means is, over time, we can't expect a whole lot of money out of foundation. We're going to get a minimum increase that whatever they decide is more or less the minimum for school districts that if the formula would actually take that away from us, considering it because of our wealth. And we got like, I think something like 3.2%, the minimum was 3%. So we're not getting huge amounts of money that way. Special adjustments, okay. Yes, in here we had to take out, there is federal money we're going to talk about. We're actually getting two we are going to be getting two pools of federal funds. One is something that's very much like a CARES grant, and the other one is the Relief Act, and the two of them come to $1.001 million that we're going to be getting in federal money, two different pots that the district will be able to use over 3 and perhaps 4 years. Right now it's 3. I think the state intends to ask the federal government to extend it out 4 years. So that's $1 million that will not be in the general fund. It'll be put off in the special aid fund and treated like a grant. It would be treated like the pre-K grant or IDEA for students with disabilities. It'll go into a different fund, but the money can be used over the next 3 to 4 years to support district needs. And it's things, things as a result of the pandemic, remediation, AIS, learning loss, any of the things you could have done with the CARES Act, the supplies, the things, the costs of this, air filtration, taking care of the social emotional needs of students. There's a whole list of things that were eligible. So that money we will have to use, but it'll be kind of set off to the side. As we look at the other state aid, there's one other very significant thing for Germantown. And if you look at that, we have a mistake, it should be excess cost aid. You ever notice that it is excess cost aid. But the bottom line is, if you take us back about 2 years, most of the students that we sent out of the district, Yvonne Waters had them in private special education schools that are not public, they're not part of BOCES. They're, I can't think of one right off the top of my head in this region, but most of our students that were out of district went there. And at the highest, a couple of years ago, we got $243,000 in aid for those students, because basically if you send them off to these very expensive placements, there's a much smaller local contribution, which is only our tax levy per student, and a much higher aid ratio. It gives you a lot of money. Right now, the overwhelming majority, I think one of the students that Yvonne has right now, they are now in BOCES programs, either at Quest R3 or Duchess. And those costs are not that much less than the private schools. But what happens, there's a much bigger local contribution. It's called a basic operating cost is taking off, which is much larger than the tax levy. The operating cost is much bigger. It comes off of your expenses, plus we get a lower aid ratio. So for those students, I did a recalculation. The kids that right now Yvonne has at BOCES, I think we're only going to get about $17,000 in the 21-22 school year for those students. And what happened is when the state does its budget projections, they go ahead and do is for excess cost aid, they presume they take the last 2 years. So they did something similar to what we got 2 years ago. We had all those students in a private special ed setting and said, that's what we're going to get. But I know the money's not going to materialize because everyone Yvonne has now to be aided next year, nobody's in a private school. And I think we have one at Berkshire Farm. So that is a big loss in aid. It was around 230,000 a year ago, dropped, I think, for the current year to about 140. And when the state does their projections, they take the best number from the last 2 years and say, we'll assume we're going to get that. Well, we're not. So unfortunately, that offset our state aid. Well, we got the increase in foundation aid, we lost some. So kind of is, kind of is what it is. But, we're at a somewhat, it hurt us in a somewhat lower figure. Rest of the aid, pretty much projecting, I think it's going to be, okay. But we have to be realistic on what we're getting in the state aid. I think as we move to next thing, we're looking at just the local expenses. We're assuming pretty similar things than we had in the past, thinking that most things will, generally recover. And in the past, like Medicaid is down this year, but it probably will be back up in, 45,000 or so. We're assuming interest and penalties, interest, refunds, donations, all would be similar, kind of other state aid. And then we get to the tax levy, which is almost $9.8 million, which you saw that came as a result of the tax cap calculations. So what does this mean for us when we get to, we have to go back a page? No. Wait, did I miss a page?
This just shows it.
Oh, okay.
This is just the graph to show where the aids are coming
Where it's
from.
going, yeah, that's the pieces. Okay.
So 60% of it is coming from, local costs and 32% from state aid.
Yeah. So a lot of it coming local. So basically, to do this, what we are going to have to do to support this budget, if we spend up to it, hopefully we will not. You know, we looked through the budget, we did adjustments. To tell you some of the things that we did with it, I had quite a bit in there for health insurance. We got the final rates and it turned out
We're on the
most.
spending plan.
Oops, am I in the wrong? Oh, okay, somehow we ran it down. Okay, so then the spending plan, looking at the numbers, you know, it's 16,331,182. What we actually did in here is we did have some adjustments. We did add a class in special education, speaking with Yvonne Waters. She has a group of students coming in that are going to be in the early elementary, have not had any kind of outside experience. They clearly are students that will have, you know, either have or will have IEPs. And she doesn't feel that they can be integrated into a general education class effectively for them to start school. So we did put in a teacher and a teacher assistant for her to have a special class. That's a lot of additional money, but at the same time, what she is planning to do is to try to see, as you work through the school year, that hopefully at worst by the following school year, she may be able with supports to take those students out of a special class and integrate them into primarily a general education classroom. In fact, as we talked, she said she might even try, depending how it's going with them, adjusting to a school experience with a lot of support. And most of the time a separate classroom, maybe even starting that integration process somewhere over the course of the next upcoming school year. So that was an add back to the budget. Most other things stayed the same. I think I took out one other position because I found there was enough money in it for IDEA, like one, I think, assistant. But other than that, you know, staffing is, you know, pretty much what you saw in the last go around, where we restored most of the positions that had been reduced in FTE or cut, you know, from with the loss of state aid potentially for the current school year that didn't materialize. We put all of those things back. And so those are the major changes in terms of the overall things that are in the budget. But the only other thing I probably would note for you that I did add in this time when we shifted money around was more support, a transfer to the school cafeteria fund. Looking at the revenues coming in, and it looks like they're down. You know, I think everybody's not in school. We're still supporting staff. To me, it looked like it would end up creating probably a deficit by the end of the school year. I added to the transfer to the school lunch fund to hopefully make up for any deficit. We normally do 10,000. I added 12,000, make it 22,000. So I think there will be a gap there. Hopefully that'll cover it, but somewhere along the line, if we didn't do with it now, they end up with a deficit. The school district will just keep loaning cash to them. We have to make it whole. So it's something that we did, but those are things, if anything to add, then those are the major
the other
changes.
thing, we in the
budget.
operations plan, we have, you know, the equipment that we need to get fixed. There's a truck needed, there's a lawnmower that we need. There's things that we've been pushing off for so many years, and since we're getting some extra aid, this might be the right time to put it forward.
Yeah. And that's actually, I think, about 57,000 in the building and grounds department. You know, it's for the truck, it's for a mister, it's for the lawnmower, it's for floor machines, all the things that are wearing out. So we added that necessary, what are necessary things, and additional electricity, and tried to cover most of the bases. What I did do is when I went through, as I mentioned the last time, I went through the budget, I looked at everybody on the payroll, made sure I accounted for them, rolled their salaries forward per contract. So if they were being paid and they showed anywhere, there's money for them. If for somewhere, and we added people were cut. If they weren't showing as being paid, well, but we think we got everybody. So that I think is, so it gives us down to that 16,131,182.
So if you break it down, our estimated spending plan, the big expenses is going to come down to obviously the benefits, debt services, and then the second one would be you're obviously teaching regular school, which should be, and a special education. So it's really coming down to people is where your expenses are.
It is the cost of people. And one of the other things, I do know that there are a good number of people that if the state does come up with some sort of retirement incentive, we do have a number of people that could retire. I think you mentioned 7, is that my memory correct on that? That are high paid employees. So if one were to retire, that would give us, some more wiggle room in the sense that we wouldn't spend as much of the budget if we replace them with people at a obviously much senior level, lower step, if they were to retire. So that's one of the big pressures on the budget. It really comes down to the issue of state aid not going up a lot because we're going to be limited, probably limitation on how much we get out of the tax levy, but the costs are growing. So I think that's, that is the long-term challenge. And to meet that challenge, I think over the next few years, whoever comes in post me, we'll really need to look at along with the administration, those federal funds. We have a little over $1 million, which is a great thing to be able to have over the next 3 to 4 years, along with, what there is in fund balance and what's in the reserve funds, and that will, and result in how you make this all kind of transition out smoothly. But there will be budget pressures and cost challenges over the next few years.
I got the summary page up.
Okay. Here we go. Yeah, so what we actually see here is, we have the basically $16.3 million budget. We have the anticipated revenues, a little over 15.1. And then what we're showing in here is using appropriated reserves, 150,000. That if we need, we can use it out of the retirement contribution reserves. We have one for both ERS, State Employees Retirement, and TRS. We could tip into that and use that, plus appropriated fund balance of $1,033,000, more than we've used in the past. But again, these pressures on the budget really kind of dictate this. But at the same time, I looked at it, the superintendent, I had him look at it, and where we are at the budget today, I think because of a weird pandemic year and being on remote instruction, the many things not happening, we will clearly underspend the current year budget. Depends on how much we'll underspend it. We put in here an estimate of underspending by 1.1 million. So probably if it turned out that we used most of this fund balance and or reserves, probably underspending the current year budget would kind of restore most of it. That will kind of be in a steady state. And we try to be a little conservative. I'm hoping that maybe when it all shakes out, maybe we'll underspend by even a bit more than that 1.1 million and be in okay shape to try to then plan out where the district goes from here. But at least we're kind of in a status quo. We brought back pretty much all those positions and things that were cut as a result of thinking we're going to lose state aid for the current school year, and put us kind of back in a position to move forward and then look at the long term. But retirements could help us, and hopefully maybe the special ed will help us too, and some things will change. You never know where the kids are going to come from and where they're going to end up. In fact, Yvonne just told me she's probably going to be getting somebody who's a foster child, and it's going to be very high needs. It'd probably be out of district, be expensive. I said, foster, oh good, it means we can bill somebody else for it, don't worry. So it's my response to her.
So when we just basically look at everything, our goal is to reallocate staffing positions, since we said in the beginning, that was decimated by the COVID-19. And we want to make sure that we have ample electives for our children here at the school district. So with this actual budget, we provide many opportunities to close the achievement gaps, given opportunities with more electives, giving the teachers more opportunity with 6 class periods. So with the overall budget, we're very excited about the future of the community here. And I also put on here the federal special aid of $1,001,000, or approximately $1,002,000. There's 106,000, I believe, that's got to go specifically towards learning loss, extra, supports. And please understand that a lot of the bigger school districts, inner city school districts, Hudson's one of them, they got a lot more extra funding that they can use towards that. So we can use this federal spending for anything to help kids. We're looking at ideas. I have the principals looking at some options right now. For example, AIS interventions for math and reading specialists, and things that make sense to close those gaps that we caused over COVID. So that's what that money is basically there for. It can be used for summer school programs. It could be for after school programs, anything that's going to help the kids get back to where they should be. So Any questions?
Yeah, Steve, can I ask you a question?
Certainly.
Oh, we just went away.
Oh, you want me to go back? Hold on, I got it.
So I just want to make sure I'm understanding this. So the 1.03 million, that's if we don't underspend it all. So kind of the worst case scenario says we would spend 1.03 million out of the general fund. Is that
Let's see.
Oh, we're gonna go back here. I got it. There you go.
Yes, like what we're really saying is fund balance, yeah, the 1.033 million. Yes, we're in the worst case scenario, we would spend that out of our fund balance and possibly up to 150,000 out of reserve funds. But at the same time, if we underspend the current year budget, we probably will add to that because this is based out of fund balance and reserves as of June 30th of last year. And if we underspend the budget, we actually add more back into fund balance at the end of this year on June 30th, 21, that would essentially replace what we would be using of what we had as a result of June 30th last year, if that.
so projected fund balance, the 1.1 million,
Mhm.
if that's what we'll have left, even in the worst case scenario that we spend the 1.03?
No, it's well, what it was is what we have left. That's something we would probably add to the totals. So the
What we
fund
didn't
balance,
spend this year.
yeah, because right now I think we
There's a lot of things that weren't
2021
spending this
that we're
year.
not spending the money on.
a lot of things didn't
That's what
happen.
that money would be.
What's our fund balance today? Can I start with that?
Excuse me?
What's our fund balance today? The general fund balance?
Let's see, I think in total, it's with all the reserves, it's let me take it back. I think it's about 1.8 million, I think, either was assigned to support this year's budget, and we probably won't be using it, and I think another that was left unreserved. So I think the unreserved that's not in specific targeted reserve funds, it's about 1.8 to 1.9 million.
Okay.
Right, as of June 30th of 2019.
All right. So if everything goes as we hope it will, we'll have 1.1 million left in the general fund.
Yeah, that we won't spend this year in the general fund. And if we use a similar amount for the 2022 budget, it should probably still leave us with roughly that 1.9 million by the end, June 30th, 2022.
Gotcha.
Because essentially it's like one number out, one number kind of replenishing it back in, leaving what we have at about the same place it is now, which is about that 1.8 to 1.9 million.
Okay, thank you.
So, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be unclear.
Yeah, no, that was good.
This gets to be kind of a game of numbers. It's a little strange.
Thank you.
And do you still have superintendent meetings with the county?
Yes.
Has anyone shared any concern about what happens with the real estate taxes if people, because of the pandemic, can't pay? If there's a majority of people who can't pay their taxes, where that leaves the school district?
Nobody said anything in our meetings to that. No, that's a good question to ask.
Yeah. Well, actually, what does happen, if people cannot pay their taxes, the burden actually falls on Columbia County. Because we just got a check since I've been here, where anybody who did not pay their school taxes last fall, the county makes us whole. They pay us the unpaid taxes, and then the county goes after.
I knew that, but I'm thinking because of the pandemic, it might be an overwhelming amount of people that can't pay because they've been out of work.
It could be, it probably will grow, but actually the burden on that actually falls on Columbia County and not us. The way state law works, they make us whole.
Okay.
Interestingly, so the burden on that is going to go directly right at the county. Because they whatever's unpaid, they reimburse it to us and make us whole.
That part I knew,
Yeah.
but I just didn't think that they would, oh boy,
Yeah, by law, they have to do it. That becomes a county burden. And, they
that's
end
gonna
up,
be gigantic.
I think it will be. Because to me, it looked like when my check came in, Diane Palazzo and I both commented, said, gee, seems like we're hearing our taxes, seems like a lot of money that is coming from the county in unpaid taxes, based on last year's levy. Because I think it was, I'm trying to remember, it was, I don't want to quote the number, I don't remember what it was, but we both commented, gee, that seems large compared to our total tax levy that the county had to reimburse us. So
Okay.
I think you're right on the right track on that concept.
Okay.
And this puts back all of the positions, so the science position, the
Yes.
phys ed position that were cut,
Yeah.
Mhm.
the Spanish position, full-time.
Yes.
the art, the music,
Yeah,
all
they're back
of
to
the
full.
ones that were,
That were part FT are now back
Are
to
going
full.
back.
Everything comes back. We are going from a 0.5 custodian to a 1.0 because we have the extra
Ready
space.
space.
Everything else comes back. It gives the 6th prep for the electives again, so that we can give more opportunities for our kids. It includes Naviance, the sub finder, all the athletics, the programs, the extracurriculars. It includes the equipment that we need, textbooks and furniture. And then it also includes a teacher assistant for the incoming kindergarten class. It's such a big group. The only things that we did not put in the proposed budget is the library media specialist, the ESOL, and Bard College at this point.
and that would include sending
Kids to
kids
the
back to Tech Valley
and
and heavy
revisions.
equipments.
We can manage that. I'm working with Hudson right now to do joint busing, working with Jesse or Jonathan over there. So we can have parents bring them to a certain spot. We also found out today that New Visions, they're working out a plan so that they will pay for the transportation.
Even better.
So we're working on that as well with Questar. But what we're trying to do is get one centralized location. Let's say we meet in Hudson or Columbia Green, and the parents bring them there, and one bus picks them up, and we share expenses with Hudson.
Oh, that'd be good.
And
It just
we
makes
are-
sense.
Yeah.
So we don't, because this is my other question for transportation. It always seems like we have gone to the kids' homes and picked them up and brought them, but we are responsible for getting them here. Right?
Mhm.
So we would, parents can get them to that spot. We are totally within legal realm.
That's correct.
That would be fine. Because
Yes.
that was always my thing is why do we got to pick them up their houses if we're, okay, then that works.
It's no different than other schools that I've been in where they drive them to the school and the bus picks them up.
Okay, that's was kind of my thought process too. Okay. Anything else? Any other questions? All right, let me go back to some reading.
Thank you for that presentation.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Most welcome.
So need a motion to adopt the 2021-22 finalized educational plan and budget, whereas superintendent of the schools and business administrator presented the proposed budget for the 2021-22 for 2021-22 during the regular and special meetings of the Board of Education on February 10th, 2021, March 24th, 2021, and April 21st, 2021. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby adopts the proposed 2021-2022 budget for $16,331,182. And be it further resolved that the date of the public hearing on the proposed budget for 2021-2022 is scheduled to be conducted on Wednesday, May 5th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. at Germantown Central School District High School Library, 123 Main Street, Germantown, New York, 12526. Any motion? And second?
Second.
And then Les, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So carried. Thank you. All right, accept the property tax report card for 2021-2022, whereas the Board of Education of the Central School District of Germantown, New York, Columbia County desires to adopt the property tax report card to accompany the annual school district budget for the fiscal year 2021-2022. And whereas the property tax report card required by sections 16087 and 2601-A of the education law. Need a motion?
I'll make it.
Second.
Any discussion? Is this new? I don't remember doing this.
It is something required. It's been
Yeah.
around.
It's been around.
Well, maybe just me.
I think it was the way you had to.
Maybe it was just how we
Say
did
it,
it.
yeah.
before. Okay.
Mhm.
Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So carried. All right, need a motion to discuss and adopt the 2021-2022 school Smart Schools Bond Act.
Make it. Second.
All right, and discussion first. so you want to discuss what we're.
Sure. We have $143,816 still in our Smart Bond Act. Anyway, it was from 19 or 2000,
15.
yeah, 2014 that they gave us so much money, and this has been sitting around. And what we're using it for is replacement of some of our computers or technology for students and staff, and also some accessories that we need to really continue with our abilities to reach our kids with our technology. So we're looking to utilize the rest of that money, which is $143,816.60 before we lose it. And we use it towards graphing calculators, HP ProBook laptops, HP student Chromebooks for students, DVD, RW extension drives for the staff, and soundbar speakers for some of the classrooms, for a total of $143,816.60, which would be the remainder of that grant.
I just found the motion.
Oh.
Took me a minute, I just found it. All right, whereas upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education hereby approves the Smart School Bonds Act purchase plan in the amount of $143,816.60 and authorizes its posting to the Germantown CSD website. All right. And there is a public comment, input and commentary before the June board meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because
This
technically
is-
on this, it says in the law, you have to hold a hearing on this. After we've posted this on the website for a month.
Yeah,
At
this
least
was
a
the
month.
plan that they presented Dale Strong, or no.
Al.
Al Levy,
Lively.
Yeah.
Lively, presented the
Yeah,
last
and
board
you've
meeting.
probably in the past seen 3 other iterations of
Yeah.
this. Went out for this 3 times before.
Yep.
Is it possible for people to put their commentary on the website?
Don't believe so.
No, I don't think so.
I mean, if they have questions, they can always email
Mhm.
at a time, but as it is a public hearing, it would have to be. So in a public forum.
Yeah, I think you formally have to have this
yeah.
public hearing. Yeah, what the statute was written on that.
Anything else? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So carried. Okay. And adopt the following resolution. Be it resolved that the Board of Education approves the following change order in connection to the 2015 capital project as presented to the board at this meeting. Change order number SC-006 to the site construction contract with Del Signor Blacktop Paving, Inc. for the amount of $140,000 to be increased to the contract with Del Signor Blacktop, Inc. And be it further resolved that the board hereby authorizes the board president to sign the above change order on behalf of the district. A copy of the change order will be incorporated by reference within the minutes of this meeting. Any motion?
I'll make it.
Second. Okay. Any discussion?
Yeah, what's it for?
It's for that big water tank that's in the back of the
Oh,
building.
so they can pay where it goes.
No, they're doing the hole, they dug the hole, they did it was some contraction they had to put in there. So they had to put the hole, the crane, the actual tank, the placement of the tank, the backfill. So it's all of that. And we're also working with them to work on the skinning of the field. And also the drainage situation was here with the architects and engineers. And we're gonna put some more drainage
Oh,
to,
good.
yeah, so it's all encompassing.
Oh, cool.
Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So carried. All right, superintendent, action item.
All right.
The following resolution. All right, that's you.
All right, adopt the following resolution. Be resolved that the Board of Education of the Germantown Central School District hereby authorize the superintendent to declare old and outdated maintenance equipment, list attached, surplus property, and permits to sale or dispose of these items, and that a record of the sale or disposal be maintained and available for public inspection.
Any motion? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So carried.
Okay, B, I'd recommend that we add back the special Board of Education meeting on Wednesday, April 28th, 2021 for discussion of personnel. which is next Wednesday.
I'll make a motion.
A second.
Is this gonna be executive session?
No, I was hoping we can use that to move forward with the new business official. If everything works out.
We can always cancel, but we have to advertise.
Okay.
Does that work for everybody?
It's just, I'm just so used to seeing discussion of personnel executive session.
Well, it might be.
At 6:30?
Yeah.
In person or Zoom?
I prefer in person.
In person.
Me too.
In person. It'll be quick. I mean.
Yeah.
So. All right.
C,
We're gonna vote on.
oh, I'm sorry.
I have to vote on that. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained,
Okay.
so
I'm
carried.
trying to move it
Liz,
along.
will you
here.
just let Ralph know? Thank you.
C, recommend to amend the 2020-2021, this current school year calendar to give back 2 unused emergency days on Friday, May 28th, 2021, and Tuesday, June 1st, 2021.
Any motion? Any discussion?
Why?
We didn't have to use 2 of our days because it was a state of emergency determined by the governor. So we were able to keep those days and we can give them back because we have enough hours and days in our calendar.
Thank you.
Is it in the contract? as well?
It is in the contract if you have extra days.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So carried.
All right, D, couple things here. The state has come out with new guidance. I sent you a copy of that in your packet to, for interim guidance for reopening the schools. The basically comes down to 3-foot versus 6-foot rules, transportation rules. So just to give you an overview where we're at, the district right now is at 87% pre-K through 6th grade capacity already. We only have 35 kids that are not in school on a daily basis for elementary. And secondary, we're getting close to 65%. So we're getting kids every day. I see a new face every day, which is fantastic. So with this, we're going to plan on continuing the way we are at this point. We feel that comfortable in what things are doing. The only difference that we feel is that necessary is the band and the chorus. They can go to 6 feet instead of 12 feet, which gives us more opportunities. So that's the only thing we're going to change at this point. But moving forward for next year, we're going to look at these guidelines as an administrative team and then as a school district, and then inviting our people that were on the committees to look at how we're going to implement the 3-foot rule, how we're going to implement 6 feet eating. You know, are we going to be able to use the cafeteria? How's it going to look on buses? Just give you an overview that's not going to have to be accepted by the state of it. It needs to just be proposed to the Department of Health local. And we already been in a discussion with Jack Mabb. He's supporting the schools. If we make a decision and give a good rationalization, then we'll be able to open the way we feel. So, you know, the buses are the big question we have out there. The other question is, you know, can high school kids move amongst the classrooms instead of being podded like they are now? If we give tests to kids once a week or something, 10%. So we're looking at all avenues as a team. I just wanted to keep you in the loop. If you have a lot of reading time, there's a lot in this, but majority of the stuff that we have in place is already working. So we're very excited that we're getting some opportunity to get some normalcy back. And we're also very happy to see kids in our building. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the end of the year celebrations. We do have prom coming up May 14th, junior senior prom. It's going to be the Steamboat Company and Sororities. We sent in all the protocol that we're going to follow to the Department of Health, got a full approval. So that's a go. Even though the state said you have to wait till June 1st, we were told by the local Department of Health that we can go ahead because our protocols were solid and met the criteria. So we are going ahead with May 14th, which is another exciting thing. Graduation's being discussed. Nothing's been finalized yet. that criteria I gave to you from the governor as well. But everything seems to be changing every week. So we're just gonna go with, planning ahead with what the guidelines say now, but if they change, we're going to, allow more people. One thing we can't do is test parents. We can test the kids. So for prom, for example, we can test our kids. So we are testing all our kids before they go to the prom that day as part of the protocol. But for graduation, if it's parents and it's a large group over a certain amount of people, we can't test the parents. They have to go to local and bring proof. So there's a lot of gray areas that we have to deal with, but we're working on a plan for graduation, and we're very excited about that as well. I think 47. Yeah, we're gonna do a Palatine Park. Yeah, we approved that 2 meetings ago, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And the other thing, the travel advisory, I know everybody's known, the travel advisory changed on Sunday when everybody was coming back for international travel. So we're fully aware of the international and domestic travel. I gave that to you as well. And then there was one more piece I wanted to just touch upon, and ask for permission, I guess, is the having the National Honor Society induction with 50 people in our gymnasium here on May 18th, following all the protocols, screenings, and making sure they're 6 feet apart. They're only family members. So many people are allowed in. They have to be part of the family. Same thing we're doing athletics. And we just wanted your blessing that we can move forward with that, so we can recognize our National Honor Society students with their parents.
Definitely.
Okay. And that's all I have.
All right.
Mr. President.
Proposed executive session, action item, proposed executive session, subject to board approval for the purpose of discussing personnel. Need a motion? There won't be any action afterwards.
No action.
No action afterwards, so. All right. And a second? No. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So carried. All right, thank you, everybody.
I'll make it second.
Oh my God.
Who you put first?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstained or opposed? Abstained? So carried. And I need a motion to adjourn,
Can I ask a question before we adjourn?
as long as it's quick.
It's quick. That list that we walked through at the last meeting, has anything happened with that? Have they come back to take care of any of those issues?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes. If you want to, that's a great question. So I met with the engineers just the other day. They're going to put new drainage systems outside. They're going to
Build that thing in front of them.
they're going to do that after the drainage is done. And they're also going to take all that tile. They're going to redo all that.
Okay.
They're going to fix the firewall. That's going to be fixed. The what else is going to be done? The exit light, it'll be fixed. Everything on that punch list has been, all of a
Everything up
sudden,
in the law?
everything's being done. So what I did,
That was the firewall.
yeah, the firewall up there and the concrete.
Oh, okay.
So everything, what I said to them, I requested a meeting this Friday with the engineers, the construction, and basically I told them, I'm going to tell them again, but I saw them earlier. I want June 1st to be the deadline because I'm not paying any more insurance on this. This is ridiculous. This has been going on for so long. We just keep spilling money out. I want it done. So we're going to have a meeting Friday, and that's it. I'm done. So,
Thank you.
yeah, enough is enough.
Now, what do you need, a second?
No, I think we
You
got
need a
that, didn't
motion?
we?
I'll make the motion.
Did we get it? I think we got both, right? Motion to
No, we
adjourn?
didn't have a vote.
No, we didn't.
I said before you
Okay.
do the motion.
All right, motion to
tonight.
adjourn. Forced to change their mind.
Make it.
Second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So carried. All right, thank you, everybody.